You are about to watch the second part of our episode on intergenerational conversation. If you have not seen the first part, please do so now. If, however, you've already seen it, you may proceed to watching part 2. Thank you.
Okay. So I think a question that I have, since you have students and then you have your grandchildren, I'd like to ask, like, how do you guys view, like, from your perspective, how do you view millennials and Gen Zs now? Yeah.
Honestly,
Yes. Go ahead.
Carla.
Uh, how do I view them?
All the good and the bad.
I'm very I love them. I love interacting with them. It's like I learn a lot from them. Yeah, maybe also because of what I do now, so I'm more open minded, and so and I know I'm not the one who knows everything, and so I'm learning a lot from them and your generation and what you're up against, except that yeah, I view them to be more stressed
Yes.
these days. Yeah, it's like you said, there's just so many options, right? There's so many choices. That's why it's more difficult to choose and to make a decision. And so my image for that is, it's like you're always disc full.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So my view is you need to be more deliberate in finding time to rest, because I think that's so important.
Call out.
Ako naman, I view your generation as very impatient people. As same with Carla, no, I love my students, no. Pero sometimes naiirita rin ako kasi
Agree.
Valid.
the Gen Zs, no, are very fidgety. Parang hindi sila maka stay put. No, they want always to do something. Yun na nga, maybe because out of impatience. And what else do I notice about your generation? It's basically the impatience, yung hindi kayo makahintay. And you are all very aware about mental health.
Yes. Yeah.
So, can you help us understand, or do you agree with what they said na stress, fidgety, impatient, and why? And what's the why behind it?
Yes to all.
Yes. Just all.
Yes to all. Yeah, like you said with the information, it's a double-edged sword, for real. We're exposed to a lot, and we want to try a lot. And if we're not able to try everything, we panic. We always, like, for me personally, I don't know, you didn't, I feel like I'm running out of time. And I don't know, or it's just nakaka-stress lang talaga that there's so many things I can do, there's so many things I want, but then there's so many blockers hindering me from doing all of these things, that I think that's where the stress comes from. And along with, the now with mental health and everything, I now become more aware of, what I'm doing to myself is actually not healthy for me. Then that adds to the stress more.
Yeah.
Like, wait, hindi pala nakakabuti sa akin to. And then, so it's just gonna be like a cycle. So it really is right now. That's why I resigned, because I was like, okay, I need this, because what I was going through, like at work, it was really affecting me, not only mentally, but it manifested physically. So it was something that, okay, this has to stop. That's where I draw the line. So now that's why I did that, so I can rest and like recalibrate at least, and just focus back on what actually do I want to do? Who am I? What am I outside of work? What are the things that I want to do? So that's what I'm doing right now. So TikTok is there, social media is there to at least just expose me to the possibilities outside. But at the end of the day, it's always just up to me. I feel, that's also that big statement that, okay, so you mean the rest of my life is up to me? So it's like, I'm responsible for my life. So those kinds of questions, those big questions are in our head. That's why I think with you guys it was like a lot more simple because there was a path.
Yeah.
And you guys just like, okay, if you follow this, you'll be fine.
And careers were linear then.
Yes, yes.
But now it's a jungle gym.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. There's so many options, so that's why it's more like there's so many paths that they need to take,
Right.
and every step there's always a crossroad. There's always this. There's always that. So there's so many choices that we have to make that adds up. So yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yes, I completely agree. To build on what Chelsea said, no, I think one of the things that comes with all of these opportunities, of course, is also the everyday comparisons that we're making. And okay, back when I was a kid, I had no idea what children my age were doing halfway across the world. But now I'm very much aware of that, and I'm actually surprised that people much younger than me are achieving all of these things, and it's causing so much pressure for me, for our generation. I guess one example would be, a real life example would be Jaylen Brown, if you know him from the NBA. He's younger than I am, but he's an NBA champion. The Boston Celtics won last year. He's also a professor for robotics, and he also studied in an Ivy League school. So he's doing all of these things while I'm here, just resigned from my job. It kind of makes me feel like I should be doing much more, when in fact, not really. And it's really a realization that not a lot of people in our generation have gotten yet, because, well, they're currently, trying to stick it out for whatever they're in right now. I guess to somehow reach whatever thing or status that whoever they compare themselves to has. And these comparisons are endless. As you go through your feed, for example, on social media, and I guess being exposed to your peers also, even in the office space, and in school, you see that they have all of these different things that you don't have, and you want them because you're so used to that, making that comparison, and subconsciously you're always doing it, even with people who aren't your generation, even with people who are older or younger than you, and with completely different means also. So the tendency is really to have that pressure as a constant burden. And if you pair that with the trends that are going on these days, rest. If you're resting, you're not reaching your goal.
You're not productive.
You're not productive. And how do you fight the urge to rest? You drink coffee, caffeine addiction, for example. And then when you wake up, you don't have good rest because you drank coffee the night before. So you wake up the next day even more tired than you were. It's a cycle. Yeah.
I think part of reflecting and listening to you, I think part of also our reality when we're growing up is that we had a greater trust on institutions,
Yes.
church, government, family, which provide us with a certain sense of stability and certainty, and authority telling us what to do and how to proceed is something that we were able to rely on. And I think that also provided us with that, and it limited our choice, but also provided us with certain level of confidence and stability in what it is that we're doing. And I think that's something that I don't know whether, or do you see institutions in the same way that we might have seen it in the past, where if my father says it, the church says it, our natural inclination is to follow and not to question the authority. Parang I think your generation, you question practically everything because you have so many choices. And then my other question is, how do you actually make choices? How do you know what to choose? Kasi sa amin, limited ang options namin. And more often than not, we rely on authority to help us make certain decisions. Or how it was done in the past is how we'll do it. Parang, particularly for women, I can imagine the options are very, very limited as far as our generation works, and particularly for women. For men, it's practically same. You go to school, you raise a family, you go to work to raise the family, and parang what else is there for us? Parang there doesn't seem to be any other thing for us to do. But your generation, the way you're explaining it, parang, paano kayo pumili? Paano ba kayo pumili?
I guess so. Your first point was the institutions now. So I think part of the reason that I also grew up, with a bit of a mystery. I was an altar server, for example, and I think part of the mystery of it and not knowing the entire picture was part of what made me just kind of follow these institutions. Um, right now, I mean, one of the things that's very common now is the cancel culture. So this involves kind of digging into everything, and going back into the entire history of an institution or a person for that matter, to really see if they're worth following or not. And that's what makes us ask all of these questions all the time. That's why we're so inquisitive about all of it. And all of this information, of course, can be accessed in some manner, which is why that expectation is there. And then going to the second point, which is why I guess how we choose, I think it has a lot to do with trends and community. So we are going to gravitate towards where we see our peers and our contemporaries also flourishing, thriving, where we see that they're happy. Of course, that's very subjective, no? Like it depends on the situation also, and depends on what. For example, if I'm applying for a job, where do I see that most of the people in my generation are happy? That's most likely where I'm going to be applying.
Yeah, actually, same points. What I think about institutions, my mom shared with me because she was telling her friend about my situation, about I resigned and all of that. I've stayed in my company for like 4 years, so that's a long time already in our generation. That's a long time. Pwede ka nang graduate, have a degree. So if you think of it that way, that's a long time. So because her friend is in HR, it works in HR, and she was like, these days loyalty is not measured by how long you stay in a company. Loyalty is now measured by how much you contribute to a company. So I think that's also a trend now. Here, you hear the trend word performance based, and now there's so much hybrid work. Like, because right now I was talking to JJ a while ago. We were talking about applying to jobs, and when someone says, because the work that I do, I can do it in a hybrid setup. So now work from home or 2 times a week, 3 times a week in the office, and then the rest is it's just flexible. So when I hear the word that we're in the office 5 times a week, I'm like, what
It's
do you,
unnatural.
yeah, I'm like, what do you guys do?
It's
How? Yeah, because this is already like the post-pandemic time.
That's right.
That before we're like, because we're so used before, like before the pandemic, like, oh yeah, we do have 5 times a week in the office, all of that. But then the pandemic happened, and we're like, oh, this we can work this way. So now the impressions that I get from the companies that still work 5 times a week, this is, aside from the hospitality, the medical field, all of those very essential jobs, like marketing. I work in marketing. What do we have to do in the office 5 times a week that I can do at home? So there are those questions that I already have in my head. It's like,
HR practitioners, they do.
yes. So yeah, because again, there's again, I think it also comes with the fact that there's so much that we want to do in our lives. That so much of that time is wasted in the commute, in the all of that. So there's that factor when it comes to work. When it comes to, like, again, organized institutions, when it comes to church. So I was also raised in the faith. My family is very active in the church. But there was that time where I also doubted. I questioned, like, why are we doing all of this? What's the purpose? Why? All of those questions. I deep dived into that. And so now, as I practice my faith, I feel like I'm more involved, and my understanding is a lot deeper now. Through that doubt, I'm able to build more trust, and I'm able to have a stronger foundation as to what I believe in, and more confidence in what I believe in. And because of that, I'm able to establish that good foundation that through the decisions, or like through, it's already involved or like innate in the decisions that I make. So I link that to the second question. Like, there are those decisions, at least for me personally, like, okay, am I able to bless more people through this decision? Is this something that's made out of selfishness? Or is it something that will allow me to love others more? those kinds of questions in a deeper way. Or like, for example, as with the work, 5 times a week at work versus 3 times a week hybrid. I'll choose the 3 times a week hybrid, because 5 times a week will make me tired. 5 times a week is much more time on the road. 5 times a week means I'll come home late. I won't have dinner with my family. I won't have enough time with my friends. I'll be more tired. So those are the kind of factors that I also take into consideration when making decisions. Yeah.
You have questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm actually just curious. What are your I know this may be a very broad question, ano, pero what are your aspirations in life? I mean, professionally and personally. What are your?
Why is that question important?
It's important for me because I want to understand my student better. How do they think for the future?
Because in our generation, how do we answer that question?
We're very. I mean, for me, no, I know what I wanted. For example, in the next 5 or 10 years, I already have set a goal. So I was wondering how you
Parang
view this.
I think tama yun eh. Parang what's your time horizon as far as your future planning?
Life plan.
Oo, tayo kasi we were hindi.
Um, the only thing I knew was I wanted to get married and have kids. But I wanted to be a working mom. That's all I knew. But how to get there, yeah, and I think the way I was raised was you build your bridge along the way.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yeah. So, yeah, in career development, we call it the happenstance theory, where it's okay not to know what you really want. Then you're more open to opportunities
Yeah.
and possibilities that'll come your way, right? That was me. That's,
I think that's me as well now.
yeah.
Like when I think of myself in the future, there's no specific job title assigned to it in terms of career.
Right.
I was listening to a podcast recently, and they said something about a lot of us, our generation, is so focused on looking for that one job that will make us happy to go to work on a Monday, that we forget to take care of the things that will make us excited to come home to. So that was something that struck me. I was like, that's right. I'm so much more than my job. I'm so much more than the work that I do. There's so much more in store in my life that can define me and all of that, aside from my work. And I feel like for me, in the future, what I imagine myself is like coming home from work, or maybe not even coming from work. I'll be working from home, but I'll be surrounded by people that I love. I'll be surrounded by, I'll be in a home wherein I'll be at peace, and that just exudes comfort. And if you ask me that question, that's where I'll see myself. It's just how I'll look like a few years from now on a Wednesday night. That's how I wanna imagine myself. That's how I wanna pattern my life towards. So may that be. I don't know what career will take me there. I don't know which, like, if my partner or anything will be involved, but that's how I'll just see myself, and that's will affect the choices that I will make. So there's that. Yeah, I also want to get married. I also want to have kids. But aside from that, there's so much more that I am also looking forward to in life aside from that. So yeah.
David?
Yeah, to build on that, Ren. For me, my parents had me when they were 29, and I'm turning 29 next year, and I'm nowhere near having kids of my own. I think I guess that kind of speaks about also the how unsure we are, and how unsure we are about what we really want to be doing. And I think I guess personally, I mean, I can say for a fact that I have a pretty clear image of how I want to end up. But again, it also going back to the theory that you mentioned, it's not an exact picture. It's really just a list of qualities that I want to have eventually. And I think I can speak for. I mean, of course, it's a case-to-case basis, right? I mean, I also have people in my generation who, from the get-go, they knew exactly what they wanted to be. But that is more of a upbringing thing, I think. For example, my classmates in high school who knew since high school pa lang that they wanted to be doctors. Most of the time, that's influence from parents. Ako, whereas, yes, most of the time. Ako naman, my parents really didn't, for example, my dad was the one who told me, oh, if you don't want to be a lawyer, don't be. It's a hard job. Whereas I have classmates whose parents are lawyers are telling them, no, you have to go to law.
Yeah.
Or nothing. You know. In terms of that, naman, I think, at least for our generation, even if there is that clear-cut path, there is still the uncertain picture or the non-exact picture that they only want the qualities. It's no longer, it's no longer 1:1.
Yeah.
And that also does speak about the access to all of the information that we have. So because we're, even if we do have that clear-cut path, the chance that it's going to be shaken or the beliefs are going to be shaken at some point is very, very high.
David, you mentioned something about raising a family.
Yes.
In our generation, at 25, 26,
Yeah.
on the average, you are expected to be married and start having kids. When someone reaches the age of 30 at wala pang asawa, you get all of these questions already.
Yeah.
And pressure from the family about what
Yes,
will you not
yes.
get
Yes.
married.
Familial
But
pressure.
I think your generation, that's not.
It's not a thing.
My question is, why and what does that actually mean?
I think for our generation, the priorities are different.
Yeah.
It's really, going back to relating to what I said earlier with trends, because we're so busy chasing these trends and these things that we're so unsure about what we want to become, it doesn't become a priority. In fact, a lot of people in my generation who are already married are only married as an effect of having kids, having unplanned babies. So that's actually very true in my generation. Other than that, there's really, for me, I guess just to mention, I'm going back to school next year, so I'm taking a master's degree, and it's very, thank you. It's very far from, the thought of having a family is very far from my horizons right now. Of course, it's different for for women for that matter. If there's an age factor, but for me personally, it's really not the pressure at all.
I think the pressure's still there.
Before we continue with this episode, we would like to explain to you how a podcast works. Aside from views, subscriptions, and likes help us know and determine how much we're able to reach our audience. We notice based on our analytics that 60% of you who are watching us have not subscribed on our YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcast. So we would like to request you, as you're listening to us, to please press that button, like and subscribe. It will help us with our advocacy and move to continue what we're doing. Now, let's go back to our episode.
I think the pressure's still there as a woman, since biologically, it's different for us. So at the back of my mind, there's still that pressure of being married and having kids. And I think with starting a family, with again going back to all the information, we know that we're doing our best to prepare to have kids, because we've seen people come from, we've seen friends, or we've seen people who have grown up in a place wherein the family wasn't safe for them, or the family wasn't able to provide for them. And for me, at least personally, I say that I do want to have a family, but I need to be sure that I'll be able to provide for them. I need to make sure that I'll be ready to be in a position wherein I can let them say okay, go. I can support you in that. That's the kind of family that I want to build. And I feel like a lot of us as well want that. And that's why I think you can see the trend now. A lot of couples don't want to have kids.
Dinks, they call it.
Dinks, yeah. Because double income, no kids. Dinks.
Dinks.
Yeah, because
That's my first time hearing about that.
yeah. So
So I'm so happy you want to have kids.
I want to have kids, but not just because I want to have kids. Because there are those na parang, gusto ko lang magka-anak. Gusto ko magkaganon.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like ganon din dati, like, with the family. Okay,
It's expected.
mag-ano ka, magkaanak ka,
What
ganon.
else are you supposed to do?
Yeah. And then they follow that, and then they're not ready, or they're not capable of parenting their children, or they're not capable of guiding their children. Like, with the age of social media now, I'm like, wow, not everyone's really meant to be a father. Not everyone's really meant to be a mother.
There's no schooling from that.
Yes, and as a result of that, people grow up in these conditions, and they're not they're not capable of loving others or functioning well in society because of the place they grew up in. So that's the kind of pressure that I take on myself. That okay, I do want to have kids, I do want to have a family, but I want to make sure that I'll be raising them in an environment that's safe, that's loving, and that it's well provided for. So yeah, that's
And just to comment and relate to what we were talking about earlier also. That's also one of the reasons why we're constantly hopping around jobs. Because if you stay at the job for 1 year and you change, mas mataas yung salary right away from the get-go.
Yeah.
So in terms of being prepared for eventually raising a family, that's also one of the many paths that we can take.
I think you were saying that I think from our generation, we expected our employers to take care of us.
yeah.
And that's why we grew with them. And I think the evidence pointed to the contrary, that companies, employers don't actually take care of their people in a manner that they deserve. And I think that kind of got communicated to you, so your trust is over to your employers are not there anymore, and you shifted the responsibility to yourself rather than to your employers.
Yeah, and that's also paired with all of these stories coming out now about how people are abused at work and at school. Also, all of these stories are making us also. It's created the trust issues for our generation also, and the way that we deal with that is not really of course. We're not gonna stick it out, of course. Right? At the moment we feel that there's even a chance that that can happen or that we can be abused in that manner, we're out. I mean, it's we don't have time for that anymore. No.
Sige, siguro clearly there are differences in the worldview of the baby boomers compared to the millennials and the Gen Z. Siguro yung lang to both. How can we improve the capacity, our ability to talk to each other, so that our differences, we understand our differences, but that we're also able to better understand each other, both as employers and with our subordinates and as parents, and in our society as a whole. I think clearly we're saying that we've learned a lot from them, and hopefully vice versa. But what can we do? What can society do so that these kinds of conversations become more apparent and more real? So either side.
I think well, what we're doing right now is a great start, which is why thank you again for the opportunity. I jumped on it when my tita Ruth talked to me about it. I think one of the things that we can really focus on both ways is really context. I think a lot of that is really missing these days. Part of what the being used to instant gratification kind of gives is really failing to look into the context, dive deeper, ask yourself why they think this way. Getting past all of that, getting past that conversation will really open your mind to a lot of different things, and both generations need to be doing that. Personally, my interactions with Gen Alpha, for example, it's all of this weird stuff. There's a lot of language that I don't understand anymore, and yeah, exactly.
My son's 12. So.
Yeah.
Exactly. And me being receptive to, maybe if you asked me 5 years ago if what I thought about that, I'd say, what the hell are these kids doing? But now I want to understand it. I want to see the context, and I want to know why they think that way and why they created this language, because it's also allowing me to broaden my perspective, and it also allows me to again related to what you mentioned earlier, to be more of myself.
Yeah.
Diba? Oo.
Yeah. I think, yeah, again, just echoing what he said, this is a great start. And I feel like, because right now, I feel like Gen Zs or millennials, I think we label ourselves as being very open and all of that. But I still think that we're still close in a way, in a point wherein if someone doesn't agree with the liberated ideas that we all have now, it's always, we think of it as a direct attack towards us. So I think, yeah, so it's like, oh, I don't agree with this. They're like, why don't you agree with it? That's not. So there's going to be that conversation. And I think that we always still have to be very open. And I agree with regards to context that not all of us are raised the same way. We weren't raised in the same time. So there's a lot to learn from everyone and a lot to learn from the experiences of others. And like, yeah, we did learn a lot and we did understand a lot from your experiences as well. So that's something that we're also really thankful for sure. And yeah, I think it's just being open, being very understanding, and getting rid of the preconceived biases that we have towards each other's generation. So, yeah.
For me, yeah, to have more conversations like this and to listen more. And I like what you said. Our goal would be to understand each other better, one another better, right? And yeah, and for me, just let it be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I'm just going to repeat what everybody said. And it's just to keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
I learned one thing today about how you manage stress because during our time we just have to deal with it, no? But siguro with the so much information out there, I think I could help my students sort of curate the information that they should look at or hear from, and then maybe that could lessen the stress and maybe help with their mental health, no? From the stress from so many work in school.
Yes.
Sabi nga, David, I think I also agree with that. And we were talking, Carla, before we started the podcast, in terms of meet them where they are. I think part of sometimes our generation is that, oh, been there, done that.
Yeah.
We know better, we have the wisdom of age, and we tend to descend on you guys instead of meeting you where you are and trying to understand your context and where you're coming from and that your reality is totally not different from ours. And I think it's very important because you're the future. We still like to think that we have many years in front of us, but the challenges of the world is on your shoulders. And if we want you to listen to us, we need to listen to you as much and if not more. What advice would you give to the boomers and what advice would you give to the millennials? So start muna tayo with the boomers. What advice would you give to our audience who belong to the millennials and to the Gen Z based on the conversation we've had, and then we'll ask our friends from the other generation.
Siguro be more patient and more deliberate, no? As Carla earlier said, kasi kailangan pag-isipan niyo mabuti instead of being very spontaneous. I think that would help you a lot. And also to be more open, no? Because our generation, marami sa amin yung medyo sarado ang utak. And I noticed that with your generation, you're more open to things, no? Because of the information that you get from everywhere.
This is hard because I was taught not to give unsolicited advice. But what can I say? Find time to reset. Yeah, be deliberate about finding time to reset so that you can refresh and start again.
For sure. I think just loosen up. I guess I think you're loosen up. I feel like you're at the time of your lives wherein you guys are comfortable, and again, I think now is your time to have fun or explore more. There's so many things that you can also do. Like, yeah, doing the podcast. I mean, that's something new. That's something great to explore, and yeah, I think just have fun with it. I feel you guys are at the place where we aspire to be right now, and I think along with that, you guys just have more space in your mind to
Yeah.
just be more open and chill.
Yeah, chill. Chill is the word,
Chill.
Carl.
Just chill. Yeah, I think have fun. And I feel like a lot of the people our age are more open than you think. And
Yeah.
if someone I have one. One that's really good. I'm so sorry, my brain. It's if for example, Gen Z or millennial goes to you in full confidence and just shares everything with you. They're not always asking for advice,
Right.
Oh, okay, that's a good one.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Don't be solution focused.
yes, yeah. Sometimes maybe you just need to listen. They
Yeah.
just need someone to listen to. If we need advice, if we're looking for advice, we'll ask for it.
Okay.
We'll let you guys know. I feel like that's why a lot of people naiinis rin sometimes. Kasi parang, ay, ito kasi yung kailangan mong gawin.
Good point.
Ganon. They lecture us agad. Yeah.
Eh, kasi,
Yes. So it's all. I feel like that's why a lot of people sometimes avoid that because they know that sasabihan lang ako dito. I'll just be lectured. So sometimes it's just all you need to be is a listening ear or a shoulder to lean on.
Presence.
Yeah, just a presence.
sponge.
Yes, a sponge. Exactly. So yeah, I feel like that's something that a lot of us need because of everything that's happening.
Good.
We just need someone who will listen. And if we need advice, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. David?
Yeah, actually, that was also for me. To be a sponge. At the same time, I think a lot of us are usually shy to ask.
Yeah.
When we're listening to someone, for example, we're always afraid to ask, "Oh, what do you want from me? What do you want to hear from me?" Do you? I think that's the most productive way to really listen to anybody. You have to ask what they want to get out of you, them opening up to you also. And I guess to make that a little bit more bearable and more fun, it's also to be a sponge, to be a lifelong learner. And that's a trend I have among my friends right now. Lifelong learners. Don't ever once you reach a point where you feel like you know everything, then that you are the most foolish.
Yes.
And I think that can apply definitely to all of us here. Everything is changing. The world is changing, and we have to keep on learning how to deal with it, how to handle it together. Yeah.
Question number one. At your generation, how do you connect with a Gen Alpha?
Alpha?
Gen Alpha.
Ano ba? Ang Gen Alpha would be how old?
12.
Well, then.
Down. 12 down. 15 down.
I'm always curious about what interests them, what they love doing, and I just enjoy them. Those are my grandkids. Gen Alpha.
My son is 12 years old, so every day I have no choice but to connect with him. But I'm learning, but total different worldview compared to
Yeah.
I would like to, but I haven't had the pleasure of dealing with the 12-year-old and below. My nephews and nieces are all grown-ups now.
I think again, it's just understanding them. So I have my inaanak and my cousins, so I'm very exposed to them. So I feel like we all are looking for the same things. It's just how we achieve that. It's different.
I guess just to add, video games. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a connection over video games talaga. Oo.
True.
Okay, question number two. Pop icon or icon?
Huh?
Who's your icon? Pop icon or political, whoever it is? David, let's start with you.
I guess I mentioned them earlier, Jaylen Brown.
Beyonce.
Oh, good choice.
Cannot think of any right now.
It's hard to pronounce her name. Leve? 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 Leve.
We definitely have to search that.
For now, Risa Ontiveros.
Ah, yeah.
Good answer.
Good.
Yes.
Next.
Okay, question number 3. What generation do you want to be managed by?
Okay. I'll start first. I love my millennial bosses. Yeah, it's for me.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree. Like, co-generation.
Millennials.
Yeah.
Agree.
Baby boomer.
Ako, millennials also.
Okay, fourth question. What social media platform do you always use?
I'm mostly on Instagram.
Instagram and TikTok.
Facebook, but I'm moving to IG.
Yeah.
Kasi toxic on Facebook.
Yeah.
Viber and WhatsApp.
Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, fifth question. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
5.
Hopefully getting work experience abroad.
Yeah. Honestly, same.
Yeah.
I want to work in a different country.
Yeah.
Well, my son is only 12. He'll be 17 by that time. More of the same.
Yeah.
Yes. Carla.
Still here, doing the same thing.
Teaching and learning as long as I can.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. How do you do the heart or love sign with your hand?
Ano?
Can you do the heart or love sign with your hand?
Sige. Okay, so thank you very much. David, Chelsea, Carla, and Lev. This was more than I actually expected. And when we had this idea of this intergenerational conversation for our third season, we really thought that it's something that our audience might learn from and appreciate. And we don't have this very often. And I think many of us did say that we're after the same things. We might have differences generationally. But I think we all want a better world for ourselves, for our family, for our children, and given the state of affairs in our world right now, I think conversations like this, where we're able to better understand each other, is very, very important. So, again, thank you very much to our guest, and we will see you soon. This is Senior Moments with Louie Montalvo, diving into the mysteries of the later years. Say bye, people.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.